What's happening, peeps? We back again with another one. I appreciate y'all tuning in as always. Like, comment, subscribe to the channel. Tell a friend and tell a friend. Appreciate all the feedback I've been getting. Keep it coming. Let me know what you want to hear more of. I want to deliver more of what you want to hear. And so we're going to continue on to this theme of the week here in terms of how to deal with a new manager, how to set yourself up for success with a new manager. And so we talked about building a strong first impression, how to do that. And now we're going to talk about understanding leadership styles, right? And that's kind of one of the challenges when you do get a new manager, right? Because you've had this prior manager. Hopefully you have a good rapport with them. But even if you don't have a good rapport with them, you just understand how they think or what their expectations are. And so when you get a new manager, a lot of times, we'll kind of be stuck in our ways in terms of how we think the manager should respond or react or manage or, make decisions. And so, it can be really to your detriment, and really kind of set you up to have more of a friction with the new leader in charge as well. And so I want to give you some thoughts, some perspective on that as well, in terms of, again, how to set yourself up for success. And so the first thing I would say is to observe and adapt, right? And what I mean by that is pay attention early on in the process to see how this new manager, new leader, is making decisions, right? Because that is going to help you understand a little bit more where you can or what you can do from your role to make an adjustment to be able to align to their process or their way of thinking, right? Do they make decisions quick? Do they kind of give you the ability to make the decision? Are they putting it back on you in terms of, hey, what do you think? Are they wanting to get more? Do they need more information for them to be able to make a decision? And so understanding how they make their decisions, what they need to be able to make their decisions, and you being able to provide that information, that perspective, the necessary tools that they may need in their decision-making process, will just help you keep that, build that rapport and build up, more of a relationship with them, of success there as well. And so in that aspect of it, it's really not on them to adapt. It's more on you to be able to adapt, your process or the way you approach them as the new leader within your organization or your team there as well. So make sure you're observing and adapting, understanding how they're making decisions. The sooner you're able to kind of assess that information and understand how that is, it really is going to help you going forward over the long haul there as well. And then the next one I have is just ask questions, right? It's important for you to seek clarity. That's a couple pieces of where I want to dive into on that. So seeking clarity in terms of the expectations that they have for you, for the team, for themselves, right? So you understand what is the expectation that they have, because although it may be the same goal as the prior manager, the way that they expect it to be done or how they expect it to be done may be a little bit different. Probably be different in some ways. Not every manager is exactly the same. So there'll be some variance in that, but they will have their own expectations, whether that's timelines, you getting things done, how you work together, but understanding the expectations. So ask questions up front in terms of what are you expecting? What are your expectations for me, for the team? What's your process, and from your organizational standpoint, what are your expectations, or what are you being asked to be able to do? Maybe they're getting some new responsibility as part of this role that they're stepping into as well. And so understanding that is really important. And I would make sure that you understand their workflow preferences, right? And it's just some questions that you would ask in regards to that, like how do they see the organization structuring? How do they feel about, how you should be moving within your peers, your team? When do they want to be notified of something? When do they want to be kept in the loop on it from decisions or process, or if anything's behind? What's the best way to communicate with them? Some managers are very like, hey, let's just chat. My door is always open. Others are like, hey, schedule time on my calendar. Some are like, hey, send me an email. Some may say, hey, send me a Teams message. Brief me on it in a weekly report or a presentation of information. And so understanding how they like to communicate, hopefully it aligns with what's your strength in communication as well. But I think you definitely want to make sure you understand their way of communication, and try to I would say you still want to adapt a little bit, but you have to be yourself in terms of your process to communicate. And you can say, hey, this is kind of what I typically do from a communication standpoint, on how I do it. What are your thoughts? What are your expectations on it from that standpoint? Does that feel right? Does that feel appropriate? And ideally, what you're asking these questions for is to try to see if you can have some common ground of something that you all can agree upon as a way to have dialogue, conversation, express, comments in a way that's constructive and productive there as well. So ask questions. I got a couple more I want to go over here. The next one here is learn their strengths and weaknesses, right? So everybody is, we're all good at certain things and we're weak at other things, right? And so, you may understand that your manager is really good in looking at the big picture, right? But they're not always as good in the small details. And that's a point where you can step in and provide value to them, because you may be able to see some of the small potential errors, risks, things that could come up, or small steps that would need to be done in order to be able to get to the bigger goal, right? And it could be the opposite, right? Maybe they're really good at looking into the details, finding out the ins and outs of things, but sometimes they get so focused on that, they may be distracted from the big picture. The deadline needs to be done, and how to get it completed, right? And so find ways to complement their approach, right? In terms of what they are good at. Some managers are really good in terms of being kind of a liaison between teams within their own team or other teams, and not so good at the X's and O's. So just figure out what their strengths and weaknesses are, and figure out what you can do to complement their management approach as well. So the last one I have is, I've kind of touched on it here previously in terms of asking questions, but again, just continuing to clarify expectations early, and I would say maybe even often, a little bit, right? So, try to define what success looks like in your role through their eyes, through their lens, right? And how they see that being conducted on a daily basis. Again, you're gonna, talked about expectations there. What is their vision for yourself or for the role or for the organization? But ask questions, as I said, but clarify those expectations. Clarify what success looks like in your role within the team role early, and I would say often, right? So, that's that's a form of asking questions, but that's more or less like, hey, this is kind of, it's more of a check-in, I would say, at this particular point, right? The first piece is asking questions. You're letting them set expectations, clarify ways to communicate with you, how they like to be communicated with, things from that nature. When you're clarifying expectations, right, you kind of get some information and you go back and implement it, and you're coming back to say, is this what you're expecting, right? Is this what you thought it would be? Am I moving in the direction that you envision? And so you want to continue to clarify that early and often, right? And that's something that, not always going to be the same thing you're going to do throughout the entire working relationship. But the sooner you do that early on, the better you're going to be down the road, and there's less of the in the gray area that you're having to deal with in terms of, I don't know if this is what they're thinking or this is what they're thinking. You're going to be more aligned to how they see things, and it's going to make you more efficient, more productive. You're going to streamline processes and procedures, which will help you hit results a lot quicker there as well. So let me know in the comments here, about kind of this topic of understanding the leadership style. Did I miss anything? Is there anything that you feel like I should have added to this particular topic there as well? And as always, I appreciate y'all tuning in. I got some more content on the way. And as always, if I'm lit and you lit, then we lit. So stay lit. I'm out.